The Apocalypse or Revelation of John the Theologian is one of the components of the New Testament. This is the only prophetic part of it. The Apocalypse is translated from Greek as Revelation, and it describes visions telling about the end of the world. The whole narrative is connected with certain images, symbols and allegories that do not directly, but figuratively describe what cannot be described in human language, because it does not fit into the framework of human ideas. It is so terrible and unthinkable. The Apocalypse was written in the 1st century, around the year 67, by one of the 12 apostles of God, John, when he was in exile on the island of Patmos. The apostle John lived there for many years, wrote the gospel and preached. For 2,000 years there have been many translations of the Apocalypse, interpretations of it, including completely arbitrary ones. The official church recognizes only that the Apocalypse was written by the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, contains not a description of phenomena, but their signs, which can be comprehended only by understanding the entire gospel. In the Revelation, the destinies of the church and humanity are shown through images of the struggle between good and evil. They are embodied through symbols that characterize different stages of this centuries-old battle. The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. The revelation of the fate of mankind begins with the removal of the 7 seals that sealed the book of life containing this information. These seals are broken by Jesus Christ during his second coming. And with the removal of each of the seals, an image of the cause and effect of all the ills of humanity appears. These causes and effects are embodied in the image of the 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse.
The first horseman in the book of the Apocalypse has only one sentence. It is all the more surprising how much this image was remembered by readers. So the defining attributes of the first rider, in addition to the white horse, are a crown on his head, crown, and a bow with arrows in his hands. If he is depicted in the illustration separately, without his 3 colleagues, an ordinary person may not immediately guess that it is about him in this picture. You never know what decently dressed people in crowns wear they jump. The clue that will allow us to correctly distinguish our first horseman from some knight or king is another detail that also penetrated from the New Testament text. The fact is that before describing the appearance of the first horseman, the author of the book, St. John, describes the circumstances of this vision. And I saw that the Lamb had opened the first of the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 animals saying, as it were, with a voice of thunder, "Come and see." I looked, and behold, the horse is white. So, if there is a famous book with 7 seals in the picture, usually they are drawn hanging on strings, and the Lamb, the creation of Jesus Christ, is trying to open this book, then the horseman is just ours, infernal. There may also be a figure of God and an angel in the picture as in the version above, but this is not necessary. And also the peeping author of the Apocalypse, St. John. There is nothing terrible in the face of the first rider, he is usually painted as normal, human. Why is the horse white? The other 3 have red, black and a certain pale, most likely, painfully greenish white. There is no unambiguous answer to this question, except for the author wanted it that way for Christians. This was the vision that opened before him. But you can talk about what this white suit of a horse symbolizes. White is usually a positive color, so it is strange that it is used for the horse of a negative, infernal hero. Therefore, some theologians put forward versions that the first rider is a good one, unlike the next 3. Moreover, he is Christ himself. After all, he also has a crown in addition, according to the text. That is why in some illustrations the first rider is drawn especially beautiful, one might even say divinely beautiful, and noticeably different from the other 3 riders. For example, in this picture, the first horseman in the right part of the picture, in red clothes, directly resembles Christ. Divine light emanates from his face. The situation with the interpretation is further complicated by the fact that after a few chapters in the book of the Apocalypse, a rider on a white horse appears again, but this time alone, and it is obviously clear about him that this is Jesus Christ, the leader of the heavenly hosts. True, there are differences. He is not accompanied by the other 3 riders on mismatched horses. He has not 1 piece of crowns but as many as 7. A sword comes from his mouth, an allegory of a striking word. Bloody flashes of flame come from his eyes, and in addition, it is described that he is dressed in white and the robes are stained with blood. In general, this rider on a white horse, Jesus, as a result, sometimes turns out to be even more frightening in the pictures than the first horseman of the Apocalypse. Other theologians agreed that the first horseman is not Jesus from the following chapters but a parody of him, the Antichrist. There is also a version that he rides a white horse because in ancient Rome there was a tradition to give the winner, the commander who led the triumphal procession, a white horse. In general, there are 1,000 versions. The first rider has no name. Ancient tradition calls him a conqueror because he came as victorious and to win. Popular tradition calls it a plague or pestilence. It is curious that this version arose very late in the 6th century or even at the beginning of the XX century. However, it is easy enough to guess where it came from. In ancient Greece and, consequently, in all subsequent European culture, it was believed that the plague was sent by the god Apollo, shooting people with malicious arrows from a bow. Myths about how an angry Apollo flew at people, killed them with his arrows, and they died of diseases were extremely common. So when you see the image of the first horseman of the apocalypse and you realize that he is too beautiful, not scary, but on the contrary majestic, this is completely normal. After all, artists are receptive people, who they only read. In the first horseman there may be something from Apollo, and from Jesus Christ, and from the Roman warrior. And then another horse came out, red as fire, and the horseman was given permission to deprive the earth of peace and force people to kill each other. And they gave him a big sword. Revelation 6:4. The red horseman means wars. Bible translations speak of a fiery red horse, whose rider has a naked sword raised up in his hands. The red color is a direct and unconditional indication of the blood of the victims of war and the flames of war devouring everything around. This horseman has the power to encourage people to kill their neighbor. This is a clear symbol of a global and destructive war. It has always carried an apocalyptic aspect in all peoples. It is a direct messenger of death. In the Gospel of Matthew 24:6-7, Jesus Christ says, "And you will hear about wars and rumors of war. For people will rise up against people, and kingdom against kingdom." The increase in wars is a sign of the last time. In addition, wars are the main companion of the Antichrist. No wonder, because war is the embodiment of absolute evil. Also, some interpretations interpret the figure of the Red Rider as a symbol of hatred and aggression. These factors bring the death of all mankind closer. The Lamb of God breaks this seal and releases all these sins to strike the wicked with fire and sword. The prophecy of a global war that should fall on the earth is clearly described with the help of the figure of the Red Horseman, who is given the power from above to take peace from the earth. And I looked then, and there was a black horse in front of me. The rider was holding a scale in his hands, and I heard something similar to the sound of a voice coming from where the 4 animals were. The voice said, 1 measure of wheat for a silver coin, and 3 measures of barley for a silver coin. But don't spoil the butter and wine. Revelation 6:5-6. The figure of the black rider is also quite easily interpreted. It symbolizes hunger. In many cultures, black is the direct personification of mourning. It is associated with the darkness of the night, circling crows ready to peck carrion, as well as with general despondency and desolation. It is written that the rider has scales in his hands. In some translations, this is not a scale, but a yoke. Both words carry a negative meaning. The yoke symbolizes slavery, and libra means strict restriction of food. So in ancient times, allegorically attached value to some things. In the above verse from the Bible, it is indicated that for 1 silver coin, and this is a substantial amount for ancient times, only a handful of wheat or 3 handfuls of barley could be purchased. This is a clear illustration of what hunger looks like. Then bread was the main thing on the table and its abundance was measured by well-being. At the same time, according to the text, only the prices of oil and wine do not change. There are 2 versions here. Wine, as a symbol of debauchery, only aggravates the situation with hunger, or against the background of general hunger and poverty. Luxury items that are useless and cannot feed anyone are preserved. Some theologians interpret the passage about the Black Horseman as a description of a kind of global, brutal empire in which there is a rich ruling elite living in luxury, and the rest of the people are oppressed. The highest caste owns libra. On them, the rich stingy separate the meager food, which, in their opinion, the lower classes deserve. At the same time, they themselves own various luxury items and they have everything in abundance. Thus, the gap between the ruling class and the people grows so much that the apocalypse comes. And then I looked and there was a pale horse and rider in front of me. His name was Death and Hell followed him. And he was given power over a 1/4 part of the earth to kill with the sword, hunger and disease, and with the help of wild animals. Revelation 6:8. The last, 4th rider, completes what is happening. It serves as a kind of dramatic culmination of everything described earlier. After all, this is the most terrible and merciless figure, whose name is Death. He is one of all the riders who is called by name, as well as one who does not have any weapons. No wonder, he himself is this weapon. No wonder both horse and rider are described as pale. Some theologians note the nature of the word, which was translated as pale, as a description of something rotting, inanimate. The fourth horseman is called to extinguish the last spark of life on our planet. This rider combines some elements of all the previous ones, and it can also be considered the most important of all. Hell follows on his heels as a symbol of the end. He is ready to take away all the wicked sinners. The words that the horsemen are given power only over a fourth part of our world can be interpreted in different ways. This either means that all the horsemen can sow death and chaos on only a fourth of the earth, or that each of them is allocated 1/4 of the land. Also in the passage we are talking about the fact that wild animals will kill people. This may be a hint that wildlife is very quickly regaining its dominance in depopulated regions, which directly indicates the final victory of nature over man. The fifth horseman is all of us humans. It is a person created in the image and likeness of God who cannot be drugged, digitized and chained. The human soul with its unpredictability, creativity and the ability to love distinguishes us from the soulless machines that are trying to replace us. Now there is a struggle for human souls. Our opponents need us to give up our will ourselves. They cannot force us, but they can deceive, intimidate, and then save us. We are deceived, confused, and intimidated by terrible pandemics. Wars are unleashed, famines are organized, and graves are dug so that we are scared and told. What will, what bondage, it doesn't matter. The fifth horseman of the apocalypse lives in the soul of each of us. It is important to feel it and revive it.